Hi everyone, it's Karen from Stitches and Things. I've got a really interesting class for you today. I'm going to show you how to do some blocking. So blocking is a really great way of finishing what you're knitting. There's a few ways of blocking. In the old days we used to steam things and press them. We don't tend to do that so much now. We don't like to take the loft out of things by flattening them with an iron. Things look really terrible if you iron them now or press them. Steaming, not so bad, but generally we like to block things. So I'm going to show you with some blocking wires. These are a really handy tool. There are plenty of other ways to do blocking, but this one is really, really cool, really easy. Rather than putting millions of pins in something to hold it in place, we'll use some blocking wires to make it a bit quicker and easier. There's a few garments that we block, so if you knit a jumper and after you've knitted it, you dampen it down and then you just lay it out flat on some towels, pull it into shape. We don't tend to need wires and pins for those, but with your lace work, so anything lacy like what I'm wearing, will really benefit, open up the lace work by using the blocking wires, or if you just want to pin it. But I'm going to show you the wire technique today. So I've got in my hand a set of Knit Pro lace blocking wires. So this is the tube they come in, and I'll just put that down for a second. So in the kit there comes, there's this one, it's about 1 metre long, is a flexible wire. You know it's flexible because it's got a little flat bit on the end. So there's only 3 flexible ones, but they're really quite bendy. So if you've got a shawl or something that's got a lot of curl or curve in it, these are great for getting, you know, all sorts of shapes happening with your blocking. So 3 of them in the kit. The most important one are these long ones. So you've got, these are about 1 metre long. You get 6 of these in the kit. So they're just the same as the others, except they're a little bit more rigid. They still are quite flexible, but they're a bit more rigid than the other one, and I like these ones the best. 6 of those in the kit. And the last one are the little short ones. So they're about half the size, and they're a little bit rigid as well. But sometimes if you're just doing the scarf, you want to do the end of a short scarf, you don't want a metre long wire. So there's 3 of those in your kit. So you get 12 wires altogether in your kit. Also in your kit you get a packet of T-pins. Now that doesn't look like many pins to block a shawl, but you'll be surprised, you don't need many. And a little measuring tape. So if you need to measure that something's square or straight or pulled out to a particular size, they've given you a measuring tape. Most of us have them in our kit, but it's always handy to keep one with your wires. So what I'm going to show you today, this scarf that I'm wearing, it's actually kind of a shawl. This is quite a few years old, and it's over time, it's kind of shrunk back a bit. So its lace work isn't open anymore. I'll just see if I can show you. If once we block it, it's going to look completely different. So let's have a close look at this now. And you can see all my little picos are all crooked on the bottom, and my border is kind of all shrunk up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give this one a birthday, and we're going to block it and see how beautiful it's going to look. When you knit lace work, quite often when you knit it, you get a bit disappointed because you've made all these little holes in things, but they're kind of all munched up, and it's not until you block something that it will open up and it will stay absolutely divine. The problem with some of these things, this is pure wool, but it is a machine washable sock wool. So the machine washable stuff over time will take its shape back and go back to its original. If it's a non-machine washable one, which a lot of the beautiful fabrics that we use in shawls are not, they pretty much stay blocked for just about ever. If you're going to wash it gently. You might be lucky and not have to block it again, but chances are you will have to block it again if you wash it. But I mean, how often do we wash these things? So I'm just going to start setting this up for blocking, and we'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, so you're just going to have to excuse my neck and my not so nice bits for this bit, because I'm going to try and get it up a bit close to you just to show you how we're going to weave the wires into this shawl. So I'll just start it off, and then I'll continue in fast forward, or I'll stop it and we'll get going again. So you can see these are the little points on my shawl. I've grabbed a wire. What I'm going to do for this shawl is I'm actually going to stab each little picot with the wire. So depending on the shawl will depend on where you thread your wires. But for this one, I want the little picots to stand back out again. So I'm going to stab them. I'm kind of stabbing them halfway through the little picots. So if you don't know what a picot is, it's this little thing that sticks out. It's a little nubby bit that we've put on as a decoration, and that just finishes the shawl. So I'm just going to keep threading them on. For this one, because it's so long, I might find that at some point I'm obviously going to run out of wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap. So I'm going to grab another one, and I will actually overlap. So some of these picots will end up with 2 wires overlapped in them to make the whole expanse work. So once I've got all of this side threaded, I'm going to grab another wire, excuse me, and I'm going to thread the top. So the cool thing with this is you can sit in your armchair while you're threading this up. So we're going to start again on this end. Now this time, this is a straight edge. So this time I'm just going to weave it in and out. About every centimetre I'm just going to weave it in and out. And same thing as before, we probably will have to have an overlap, which is just as well that there's enough long wires in this set. And we just keep overlapping, just keep popping them on. So you can see that's the corner of my shawl, and my wires stick it out. So it looks a bit cumbersome at the minute. But what I'll do is I'll continue to thread this up, and then I'll get it ready for pinning out, and we can see how it looks once it's pinned out. So just bear with me for a minute while I finish threading this one. Okie doke. We've got it laid out on the floor. Normally I would put it onto a towel, on a clean towel on the floor, but just to make it easier for us to see, I've just put it on the carpet. I've wet it so it's quite damp all over, and I've threaded the wires through, and I've just laid it out on the floor. You'll have to excuse me scratching on my knees, and probably I'll get my head in the shot a bit, but what we're going to do is I'm going to start on the top crescent wire, and I'm going to start on the far end, and then I'll work my way down pinning, and then I'm going to pull the bottom out. So let's see how we go with that. I've got my little pile of pins on the floor, so let's just start with a pin right up the top here to stop it going anywhere, and I'm going to peg that straight into the carpet. The carpet's a great place to block stuff, so we're just going to pull it along the wire just so it's firm, but we don't need it we don't want to go overboard. See, I've got an overlap here, so I've just overlapped the wires, so I'm just going to put a couple in there. So that's kind of stretched out, but not really massively stretched. We don't want to, stretch it too wide, because we're trying to go for a bit more depth than width. So I'll just pop a few more pins in, excuse my head for a second, just to hold it straight. And the beauty of the pins, if we need to make an adjustment, so that's our top pinned out. So that was really easy. If we were doing this without the wires, we would have so many pins. The other beauty of the wires are, see how nice and straight this edge is? So we're not ending up with these scallops because the wire is threaded through, which makes it really easy. My next one I'm going to do, about the middle, I'm going to pull this down and pop one about in the middle. Now I haven't measured, I could measure where the middle was, but there's your middle. So I've just put a pin in the wire to hold the wire down. So then I'm going to pop a few more pins in, just giving it a nice pull down as we go, and I'll go this way now. You can see my overlap here because obviously the shawl was bigger than the wires. Pull this, so this pulling this one here is pulling this, so I'll pop another one up in there. So I'm just going to pop another one here. I'm pushing my pins in at an angle, so an angle in that way and an angle in this way. It just stops the wire riding up the pin. Now these T-pins, if you haven't seen a T-pin, I'll see if I can show you a T-pin. They're quite a rigid pin and they've got a nice wide top. So if the wire does ride up the pin, it doesn't tend to bounce over it. So we'll pop another one here. Now we've got a couple of little picos that have popped off here, so I'm just going to pop them back on. And I'm going to tuck that. Oh, I think I might put another pin in this. I'm going to pin this one out here. So that side looks pretty good. So some of these little picos, we'll just make sure they're looking nice. Not that it matters that much because once it's dry, they're not fixed, but just makes me feel better if it kind of looks rather nice while it's being blocked. Okay, now I'm going to work along this side. Pop some more in. Pull it out. So it's starting to look quite nice there. It's really showing off the pattern. Excuse my head while I pop a couple more in here. So I think that's probably it. Just have a tidy up. So you can see how quick that was. Took me maybe 5 minutes to set the wires up, and that's it all pinned out. So we will, I'll give you a close-up shot in just a second, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll unpin it and we'll have a look. Alright, so there it is pinned out. You can see my overlap, my little picos, it's doing through the picos. Got it pinned at that end. I ran out of space up there. And you can see how the lace work already is open. Now you would think that stretching it out and wetting it, that when I unpin it, it's just going to pop back. But you wait till you see how it looks tomorrow when it's dry and all finished. So from here, what I generally do is I'll lay a couple of towels on top of it, which will just help absorb the moisture and keep it nice and flat. And then tomorrow we'll unveil it. Here we are. It's tomorrow, and I'm just going to unpin this and let's have a look. Hang on, I've got to get out of the shadow. We're going to have a look and see how it looks now that I've unpinned it. So just excuse my head for a minute while I pull out these pins. And you can see it doesn't shrink back much. So that's the aim of the game, is that we know that it's blocked well if it doesn't shrink back like mad, because we put a fair bit of tension on it. I think that's it. Alrighty, so we'll just run the wires out of it. Pins on there so I don't stand on them. So now you can see the shawl, how different it looked from yesterday. So it's all beautifully open, it just looks divine, whereas yesterday it just looked quite munched up, and yeah, and so it's opened up, it looks lovely now. So there you go. Alright, here it is, all finished. Let's whack it on. Let's see how different it looks from before. You can see, look at these edges, they're just beautiful now. It just all sits lovely, look at that. So it's quite amazing how different that looks by just wetting it and pinning it out. So it just finishes off your knitting to be something that looks just average, to something that looks absolutely divine. So there you go. Sorry, I'll get back in shot. The wires are available on our webpage. They include postage. So if you are after some blocking wires, they do come with 20 pins. If you feel like you need more than 20 pins, I actually used 19 to pin this out, and I had 5 of the long wires. So if you need more pins, they're about $5.50 for 50 pins. So you'll find all of them on our webpage. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Stay tuned for more of these little information videos, and we'll catch up with you again. Thank you. Bye.